What is happening, guys? It's SpruceGoose here, and I just want to do a quick video talk about some current gen versus next gen speed testing. If you guys are over on TikTok, you probably saw that Chuflaka has a post where he compared current gen and next gen Christian McCaffrey running in a straight line, and it showed that current gen Christian McCaffrey was faster than next gen Christian McCaffrey. And I found that really interesting. I wanted to get in on the fun and do some testing myself. If you guys are maybe aware, some of the earliest videos on my YouTube channel, we're doing some speed testing. We tested a speed boost glitch. We tested whether acceleration matters. We tested whether height impacted speed. And so because I've done some of that in my past, I'm very interested in this stuff. And so I wanted to do my own tests and just try to see if we can find out anything interesting about this current gen versus next gen speed testing. So I did two tests. I did Christian McCaffrey, next gen, current gen, running a streak, and then also user control running in a straight line, both from 40 yards out, because we'll do these tests and then we'll compare it to his actual real life 40-yard dash and kind of see, does current gen have it right, does next gen have it right, or is it somewhere in the middle? But first, I just want to show you guys the speed test. And so this is just a recording I made of, putting them side by side. And as you can see, consistent with Chuflaka's TikTok, current gen Christian McCaffrey is finishing the 40 yards significantly faster than next gen. But I'm going to back it up. I'm going to back it up to the beginning. There's something very interesting going on here, guys. Almost pretty much the entire gap happens in the first 10 yards. So look, Christian McCaffrey at the 30-yard mark is about, 4 yards ahead of next-gen Christian McCaffrey. And then he just maintains that the rest of the run. So we pause it right there. He maybe separated another half yard. But most of that was entirely found, that distance was found in the first 10 yards. So that basically shows that the acceleration on next gen is much slower. The top speed on next gen, current gen is basically the same. It's almost exactly the same, but the acceleration is significantly slower on next gen, and that's consistent, I would say, with what people have experienced on next gen so far, is that it feels like it takes forever to get their players up to speed. So I'll pause it again right there about, his foot is probably just now crossing the 10-yard line. It feels like it takes so long on next gen for the player to get up to speed, and it turns out that anyone who had that complaint is right. It is slower. I mean, I think we all knew it was slower, but this shows it is slower in getting up to speed. The acceleration is slower. And I think that because we're so used to the current gen acceleration where you can get up to speed in the blink of an eye, it can be really jarring to go from current gen to next gen. And as for what's more realistic, we'll look at that in just a sec. I'll let the test play out. But again, this was on a streak. And then I also wanted to see, is there any difference when the player is user controlled? So now this was me just, holding down sprint and trying to run as straight as possible. And again, if you guys see, I pause it when he's on the 30. An even bigger gap this time. A solid, pretty much 5-yard gap in the first 10 yards. And then, again, it's pretty much just maintained after that. If we pause it on the goal line, yeah, it's about a 5-yard gap. So the acceleration on next gen is so much slower. And again, maybe it's because they're going for realism. In just a sec, let me pull this up. Again, this is a less official video. Oh, here we go. Let me move this out of the way. That's my file where I've got all the stuff. But I've got Christian McCaffrey's 40-yard dash time, or 40-yard dash video right here. Oh, starting to mute the volume. But take a look at this. This is a very unofficial video, guys. But if you go ahead and look, here's Christian McCaffrey's 40-yard dash from the combine. Now, this is in ideal conditions. No pads, no helmet, no anything. But if you guys see, he is going to run. Well, we'll let him run it. A 4.49, okay? A 4.49. Now, let me go ahead and pull up the side-by-side testing video again. And I will show you the calculations that I came up with, okay? So here, I'll pause it when we hit the goal line. Here are the calculations that I came up with, okay? These are very official calculations. So basically, I was doing some frame counting. In Adobe Premiere Pro, I was basically counting on the streak in current gen. I had him at 4 seconds and 17 frames, which at 60 frames per second was 4.28 seconds. So basically, that means on the right side right here, he ran that 40 yards from a standstill in 4.28 seconds. Now, on next gen, on the streak, he did it in 4 seconds and 41 frames, which is 4.68 seconds. So, you guys remember, what was McCaffrey's 40 time for the combine? 4.49 seconds. So, his combine 40 time was actually right in the middle of the 4.28 and the 4.68. Now, when you go ahead and account for Christian McCaffrey on a football field wearing pads and a helmet, 4.68 is actually probably pretty realistic for his 40 time on the field. So as much as I hate to say it, next gen probably has the speed right in terms of pure realism. And I don't know. It feels really muddy, but they probably got it right. You can also see that in terms of the user-controlled players, apparently I got 4.12 seconds for my time from a standstill user controlling the player. I may have been standing on the 50, like, you know, we may have had about a tenth or second, a tenth or 2/10 of a second head start on that one. So it would probably be closer to maybe a 4.3, I would say. I think I was standing on the 50. And so that I think is a little bit fast. But let's just say it's a 4 or 3. You can still see that current gen is just a little bit too fast compared to real life. And so it brings up one final question. Is realism good for Madden? And I would argue not always. And the reason I say that is if next gen is pure realistic football movement and it feels terrible, I don't want pure realism because this is a video game and it has to be fun to play. It has to feel good to control the player, right? Like if you're on current gen and you're saying in MUT using Barry Sanders, like 99 speed, like 98 agility and change of direction, handling with Barry is so much fun. And hitting stop and goes on your opponents and just feeling like you're in total control of the player, it's a great feeling. It's fun. And it also, I would say, raises the skill cap. Great players will be able to distinguish themselves from mediocre and bad players much better the more control they have over the player. If you take control away from the player like it feels like you do on next gen, that skill cap, it shrinks and it becomes much tougher to distinguish yourself with skill. Everyone just becomes a much more similar Madden player. And I don't think that's good for the game. If Madden wants to be taken seriously, especially on the competitive scene, there have to be elements to the game that allow highly skilled players to have an advantage because they're highly skilled, because they've practiced, because they've developed those skills. And so I think EA needs to be really careful in moving to true realism. Like I know that they are very proud that they're using RFID data to get, exact speed and movement from the football field in real life, but they need to be very careful because the moment that they care so much about realism that they remove the element of fun from the game, the moment that they take away a lot of the user control, which is what, in my opinion, it feels like a next gen, whether it's running with the ball carrier or using a defender like a middle linebacker or a safety, I think it's bad for the game. I think it's bad for the game to take away user control, and I think they've kind of done that with this next gen movement. And so that's why it's a tough situation. EA will say these are the realistic numbers. These are the exact numbers. And this testing proves that they are right. They are right that Christian McCaffrey probably runs a 4.68 in a helmet and pads on a football field. It's going to be much slower than what current gen gives you, where he's running like a 4.28 in a helmet and pads. It's just not realistic. That being said, they need to be very careful that if they go the total realism route, if they make the gameplay less fun, if they lower the skill cap, it's going to be bad for the game in the long run, okay? So I want EA, if they ever see this, they probably will never see this, but I really want them to keep that in mind. You have to remember that this is a video game, and that at the end of the day, people are playing video games for them to be fun, and realism is not everything. There's a reason that way more people play Call of Duty than Arma 3, because people want it to feel somewhat realistic, but they don't want total realism. Total realism is not fun. Video games are they're an escape from reality. And so if you try to go hyper realism, it's going to be bad for the game, in my opinion. But guys, that's the speed testing. Hopefully you found the results interesting. Clearly, current gen is faster than next gen in terms of the acceleration, not in terms of the top speed, but you accelerate so fast. There's almost zero time to get up to full speed in current gen. So let me know in the comments below. This is a very interesting topic, I think. Do you prefer the current gen model or the next gen model? Do you want true realism, or do you want the enhanced acceleration and enhanced control of current gen? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's very interesting. But as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Hope you have a great one, and I'll catch you in the next video.